Episode 1. The Whisper Behind the Altar. You should never pray when you're desperate. Desperation blinds you to the voice that answers. Esther Ramirez had not stepped into a church in 7 years. But tonight, as rain pounded against the chapel's stained glass like fists of the forgotten, she returned, not for faith, for a miracle. Her daughter, Sophia, had been diagnosed with a disease no doctor could name. Her skin turned translucent. Her voice echoed when she cried, and her dreams were no longer hers. "Please," Esther whispered, kneeling at the altar. Her breath fought there in the cold, abandoned sanctuary. "God, I don't care what it costs. Just save her." Thunder cracked. The candle's sunlit for years flared to life. "Everyone." Then came the voice, gentle, sacred, seductive. "My child, I hear you," Esther gasped, her spine locking upright. The air grew thick, honeyed, fragrant like old incense and burnt flesh. She turned it, but there was no one behind her, only the crucifix. And yet, the voice did not come from above. It came from within the walls. "I will save her," the voice continued, "but salvation has its price." She didn't question. She didn't bargain. She just nodded. When she rose, her knees bled. The crucifix bled too. That night, Sophia slept peacefully for the first time in months. Her fever vanished. Her skin returned to its warmth. But in the morning, she woke up speaking in Latin, a language no one in the house had ever spoken. And when Esther tried to pray in thanks, she vomited ash. She had been answered, but not by heaven. And somewhere deep inside the chapel wall, something smiled. Episode 2. Her daughter's eyes were not her own. There is a kind of silence that isn't peace. It's preparation. The next day, Sophia sat her day in her room, humming a melody Esther didn't recognize. The notes curled unnaturally, like a lullaby carved backward. And when Esther entered, her daughter's eyes followed her too smoothly without blinking. "Sophie, are you feeling better?" "I am," the girl said, but it wasn't her voice. It was older, hollow, as if someone else had borrowed her throat. Esther stepped closer. Sophia smiled, but her mouth didn't. "Who taught you that song?" Sophia shrugged. "It came in my sleep." That night, Esther found her daughter standing by the window, arms outstretched to the moon, whispering a prayer that made the crucifix on the wall rattle. The words were ancient, not Latin, not any human tongue, and the shadow cast by her body didn't match her shape. In the kitchen, all the mirrors had cracked. Esther returned to the chapel the following morning. The same candles still burned, untouched by wind or wax. She screamed into the emptiness. "Who are you?" The voice answered with a sweetness that rotted her stomach. "I am who you called. Esther, I gave you what you begged for. Are you not grateful?" She fell to her knees, trembling. "You said you were God." "No," the voice replied, unused. "You assumed." Behind the altar, the stone wall bled a thin line of black. Episode 3. The first sign of possession. It began with the birds. Hundreds of crows appeared on their rooftop. No sound, no calling, just eyes like polished obsidian. Watching through the windows, Esther woke to find Sophia sitting upright in bed, speaking to them not in words, but in clicks, tongue against teeth, like bone tapping bone. The house reeked of sulfur. That morning, Father Mikkel arrived, an old friend, a priest who once taught Esther the Psalms when she still believed they could protect her. "You called for help," he said, "so I came." Sophia was in the living room, drawing circles on the wall with her fingernail. She didn't greet him, didn't blink, just kept drawing, over and over. Her finger bled, but she didn't seem to feel it. Father Mikkel approached. "Child, may I pray with you?" Sophia turned. Her smile was ancient. "You can try." He began the Lord's Prayer. She laughed, not like a girl, like something remembering joy for the first time in centuries. Her voice split, layered, two tones, one high, one beneath, like the rumble of earth before it cracks. The lights in the room flickered, then burst, and blood seeped from the wall where she had drawn. Father Mikkel staggered back. "Tale, this isn't affliction, this is agreement." "Esther, what did you do?" Esther whispered. "I prayed." He turned to her, eyes wide. "To who?" She didn't answer, because now, even she wasn't sure. Episode 4. When the holy water boiled. The next morning, Father Mikkel returned with a vial of holy water. He didn't tell Esther. He didn't need to. She saw the resolve in his eyes. and the fear behind it. Sophia sat calmly on the sofa, legs folded, humming the same reverse melody. Her eyes were closed, but they rolled beneath the lids, like she was watching something move. He approached with the vial hidden in his sleeve. "Let me bless this house," he said. Sophia smiled. Too late. He dipped his fingers into the vial and flung droplets at her. The water hissed, not sizzled, not steamed. It hissed, like it struck a snake. Sophia opened her eyes, black, dupeless, reflective like oil. "You insult him with your tricks," she said in a voice that made the walls groan. Father Mikkel clutched the crucifix on his chest. "In the name of Jesus Christ, I command." She stood. With one step, she was inches from him. Her small hand reached for the crucifix and it snapped off his chain without a touch. It hit the floor, burning. Esther screamed, but Sophia turned calmly to her mother and whispered, "You promised me. You said you would give anything. Don't regret it now." And in that moment, Esther remembered her exact words at the altar. Anything. That night, Father Mikkel did not stay, but he left his Bible on the kitchen table. Its pages had turned black overnight. Every verse was rewritten, not in Latin, but in whatever tongue Sophia now spoke when the moon was high. Episode 5. The Sound Beneath the Floorboards. That night, Esther didn't sleep. She couldn't. She sat in the hallway, clutching a rosary that no longer felt holy, listening to Sophia breathe behind her bedroom door. But it wasn't just breathing. There was another sound. Scraping, slow, rhythmic, like something carving symbols into the wood from beneath the floor. At 3:07 a.m., the hallway lighted into a red glow. No bulbs had changed, but the color shifted as if the house itself decided it wanted blood. Esther stepped towards Sophia's door, hand trembling as it met the knob. The door opened without sound. Sophia wasn't in bed. She was crouched on all fours in the corner, fingers pressed to the floor, whispering. Esther couldn't see her face, just the outline of her spine. Too long for a child her age. The scraping came from her fingers, or maybe beneath them. Esther spoke her name, just once. Sophia turned her head and at her body, just the head. Slowly, inhumanly, her eyes were closed, but her mouth opened, and from it came a voice that did not belong in any child. "He listens through the wood. He waits under the nails." And then her mouth shut so fast Esther heard her own teeth ache. The next morning, Esther called Father Mikkel. No answer. Instead, she found his Bible, still blackened, now bleeding from his spine. The floor beneath it had warped, as if something had pressed upward during the night. Esther opened the book. A page fell out. It wasn't scripture. It was a photograph. A girl Sophia, but not. A twin that never was. Same eyes, same mouth, but in place of hands were claws. And behind her stood the chapel. Only now it looked ruined, like it had been burned centuries ago. Esther dropped the photo. Behind her, Sophia giggled. "I found the crack, Mama," she said softly. "What crack?" "In the floor, the one where he first came through." Esther's legs failed her, because she remembered the chapel's floor, and the one broken tile behind the altar she had knelt on when she begged God for mercy. It wasn't a tile, it was a seal, and she had shattered it with her prayer. Episode 6. The prayer that couldn't be. UN prayed. There are words you can unsay, prayers that echo long after the lips stop moving. Esther tried to forget the night she broke the seal. She tried to pretend the tile hadn't screamed when she touched it, that her daughter hadn't started to whisper into the floorboards like they whispered back. But the house wouldn't let her forget. Every door now creaked open at 3:07 a.m. Every mirror reflected a second Esther own whose mouth didn't move when she did. And Sophia had begun to draw again, not on paper, on walls, on skin. That morning, Esther found her in the kitchen with a fork in her hand, carving symbols into her arm. "I'm just writing what it told me," Sophia said gently, "so I don't forget when the voices return." Esther snatched the fork away, but the marks didn't bleed. They glowed. That night, Esther made a decision no mother should ever have to make. She returned to the chapel. It was no longer abandoned. Candles flickered before she stepped through the doors, casting shadows shaped like kneeling figures, none of which moved. "I want to undo it," she whispered. The voice answered immediately, like it had been waiting. "Undo what?" "The prayer, the promise." "What prayed?" Silence. Then laughter. Slow. Patient. Mocking. Oh, Esther, you asked. I answered. You bargained. I delivered. She knelt, tears sliding down her cheeks. Then take me instead. Let Sophia go. A pause. Then, from behind the altar, a sound like stone splitting open. You think I want you now? She frowned. See, you were the door, not the offering. The candles extinguished all at once. In the darkness, something moved across the ceiling, and from the chapel walls came Sophia's voice in it, calling for help, praying softly, but not to God, to him. And this time, the seal wasn't broken. It was opening. Episode 7, The Name That Burned the Air. Esther didn't remember leaving the chapel. One moment she was kneeling, begging to be taken. The next, she was standing in her backyard, barefoot, dirt under her nails. A black mark burned into her palm, a mark that pulsed with heat each time she tried to speak her daughter's name. Sophia was no longer sleeping. She stood at the window day and night, whispering to something only she could see. She no longer blinked, and the drawing symbols scratched into the floors, the walls, even the bathroom mirror beckoned to rearrange themselves, as if the ink remembered what it was supposed to become. Esther asked herself a question she never dared say aloud. Was there even a Sophia anymore, or only the shell of what had been offered? She tried to reach out to Father Michael again, but the call never rang, only static, and beneath that static, a low voice repeated a single phrase. He gave her back, but never left. That night, Esther opened the sealed box of her grandfather's books, Forbidden Theology, pre-Vatican manuscripts, and one, wrapped in cloth, with a title that had been scorched off. She opened it. There were no chapters, no pages, just a single name repeated over and over again in different tongues: Ethiopic, Aramaic, Enochian, and when she spoke the name just once, temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. The lights went out, and Sophia screamed from upstairs. Esther raced to her room. Sophia was standing on the bed, arms outstretched, eyes wide with terror. Around her, the walls bled. The symbols moved like worms. Don't say his name again, Mama, she begged. He doesn't like being remembered. Esther grabbed her daughter. For a moment, she felt if real Sophia, fragile, afraid. Then her body went limp. The mark on Esther's palm lit up like coal, and from the shadows in the hallway, something stepped forward. Not a man, not a beast, a shape wearing robes made of silence and ash. Its face was hidden behind 7 veils of lightless fire. It spoke no words, but Esther heard it anyway. You prayed. She listened. And now I remember my name, because you said it. Episode 8, The Pact Buried in Her Blood. The figure did not move, yet the house trembled, as if the very memory of its presence cracked the foundation. Esther held her daughter's body, still warm, still breathing but asleep in a way that didn't feel human. Her eyelids flickered with dreams that smelled of fire. The veil beamed instead. It glided. The floor beneath it blackened. Why now? Esther asked. Why show yourself? Its voice was inside her, not in her ears, but pulsing behind her ribs. Because the door is open, and she's almost finished writing the rest of me. Esther backed away. What do you mean? The walls pulsed. On every surface, Sophia's drawings now glowed in ink. But blood, a map, no a script, a resurrection. Esther turned to her daughter. Sophia's lips moved as she slept, whispering syllables that bent the air, and one word kept returning, a name Esther had never spoken but somehow knew. Fast Girl. It was the name from the book, the one she had spoken aloud, the one that turned the room cold. The demon had a name, and now it had a voice. Sophia gasped, Saturday up, eyes wide and not her own. Mama, she said. It was Sophia's voice, cracked and tired, but real. Esther rushed forward. Baby, I'm here. You're okay. Sophia grabbed her hand. Hard. You have to stop me, she whispered, before I finish the prayer. What prayer? Sophia looked toward the hallway, where the veiled figure still hovered, silent, watching, the one that lets him stay, the one he's making me dream. Esther's heart broke. Tell me how. Sophia leaned in. Her breath trembled. In the attic, she said, behind the wood. There's something he buried in thee. When you prayed, when he answered, you have to find it. You have to burn it. The mark on Esther's palm blazed red. and the figure of Esther relevantly spoke aloud. Its voice was ruling. Do that, and I'll take more than her. I'll take the parts of you've already forgotten. The candles in the house exploded, but Esther had already chosen. She carried Sophia to the attic, to unbury what was hidden, to burn what should never have been prayed for. Episode 9. What she found behind the wood. The attic door creaked open like a coffin lid. Dust thick as ash clung to Esther's skin as she climbed. The light bulb above her flickered, then died, leaving only the red glow from her burning palm. Sophia clung to her side, silent, shaking, whispering verses in reverse. The wood panels at the far wall pulsed, not with heat but breath. Esther stepped closer. Her fingers brushed the boards, and the temperature dropped instantly. The boards cracked and split on their own, revealing a hollow space. Inside, wrapped in a blood-stained sheet, lay something that looked like flesh, no bigger than a fist. It beat, a heart, not human, not living, but ancient, branded with the same mark that burned her palm, bound with black string and sealed in wax made of bone. Sophia fell to her knees. That's where I hid the rest of the promise. She sobbed, the part he couldn't take until I finished the last word. Esther lifted the heart. It pulsed harder in her hand, pushing against her fingers like it wanted to escape. Whispers filled the attic, down scenes of them, hundreds. Burn it! Esther pulled a match from her pocket, the one she hadn't used since the chapel night. Her hand trembled. You like that? Came the voice of Oscarl, and you burn more than a promise. You burn your memory of her, of holding her, of naming her, of ever being her mother. Esther frowned. Sophia looked up. Do it! You forget me, Esther whispered. Sophia, smile truly, softly. Then I'll remind you. The match struck. The attic lit with golden flame. As the fire touched the heart, it screamed, not from pain, from rage. The walls split. The entire house convulsed. Blood rained from the attic beams as vast rolls drew from cracked through the ceiling, towering. Wind burning from the inside out. But it was too late. The heart turned to ash. The markings vanished from the walls. Sophia collapsed, and the last thing Esther heard from the demon, before it was dragged back through the seal, was a hissed whisper. You may forget her, but I won't. Then silence. Real, holy silence. Esther held her daughter in her arms, and for the first time in weeks, she didn't hear anything whisper back. Episode 10. The morning without her name. When Esther opened her eyes, she was alone. Sunlight stretched across the living room floor. Not golden, not warm, just light, empty, sterile, like it didn't remember how to comfort. She blinked slowly, sitting up on the couch. Her hands were raw, her arms ached, but she couldn't remember why. There was blood on the walls, symbols burned into the wood, a scorched match on the floor, and a child's sock. She picked it up. It was soft, thin, impossibly small. It stirred something in her chest to pressure. A hollow watch hid no memory followed. She stood, moving through the house like a stranger. The hallway smelled of smoke and tears. Her mouth wanted to say a name, but her mind stuttered. Blank. Then she heard it. A sound. Not a whisper. Not a growl. A hum. A child's voice humming a broken lullaby. She followed it upstairs. In the center of the hallway sat a little girl, cross-legged, drawing suns and crosses on the wall with a crayon. The girl turned. She said. You look tired. Esther's breath caught. Her knees almost buckled. The girl stood and held out a drawing. A woman and a child, holding hands. You forgot me, the girl said gently. But it's okay. I came back. Esther touched the girl's face. Tears blurred her vision. What's your name? She asked, choking. The girl smiled. You gave it to me. Esther knelt. Shaking, she whispered the name as if it had always been there, buried just beneath the surface. Sophia. The house exhaled. The blood on the walls dried. The burn mark on Esther's palm faded to nothing. But outside, down in the woods behind the house, something watched. Something ancient. Not angry, just waiting. Because even broken packs leave echoes, and prayers, once spoken, never truly go silent. Episode 11. The prayer buried beneath her tongue. The house was silent for days. Esther began to believe it was over, that the thing had gone, and Sophia's return was real. The girl laughed again. She ate, slept, painted her dreams on paper instead of walls. The shadows stayed where they belonged, but Esther couldn't sleep. Something tugged inside her chest, a thread she couldn't see, a tension that hummed beneath the calm. Then, one night, she found Sophia in the bathroom with open wide in front of the mirror, whispering something while tracing her tongue with a crayon. "Sophie," the girl spun, startled, her eyes wide, caught like a thief. Her tongue was stained with ink. "It's nothing," she said, "just a game." Esther pressed gently. "What were you saying?" Sophia hesitated. "Then, I was just practicing the words again, in case he ever comes back." Esther felt the world tilt. "What words?" Sophia blinked. "The ones it put under my tongue. I can still feel them. They burn when I forget. They sing when I whisper." Esther's knees buckled. "No, no, baby, you're free. We burned the heart. We sealed the name." Sophia tilted her head. "We burned a heart, not the one." Esther frowned. Her breath caught. "There's more." The little girl nodded. "He was only one name, one voice, but he's not alone." Esther stumbled back from the bathroom. The wall suddenly to close. Her hand went to her palm where the mark had been. It was there again, faint, barely visible, but real and warm. Sophia walked to her mother and took her hand. "He told me you're the next prayer," Esther whispered, trembling. "What does that mean?" Sophia leaned close. "It means he's not waiting anymore. He's already inside." Outside, the wind screamed through the trees, and beneath the floor, the old boards began to breathe again. Episode 12. The voice that spoke through her sleep. Esther locked the bathroom door that night, not to keep Sophia out, to keep herself in. The mark on her palm pulsed no longer faint, no longer warm. It burned with intent, as if something inside her was waking up. She stared into the mirror. Her reflection blinked slower than she did. She gripped the edges of the sink until her knuckles whitened. "You're not him," she whispered. "You're not real." But then she heard her own voice echo from the mirror. Before she even spoke again, "You were the one who prayed. You were the one who opened the gate. Now, be the gate." She covered her ears. The mirror cracked. From behind the glass, her reflection smiled. Downstairs, Sophia screamed. Esther ran, feet bare, slipping down the stairs. She found Sophia curled in a ball in the living room, covering her ears, weeping. "They're singing again," Sophia sobbed. "In your voice." Esther held her. "It's not me. It's not me." But Sophia didn't believe it, because the television turned on. Static filled the screen, and in that static, a voice emerged. Esther's voice, but saying words she never learned. Words that bent the air, that made the crucifix on the wall melt. From the hallway, the front door opened by itself. Cold wind poured in. With it came whispers, hundreds layered atop each other, like souls stacked in pain. Esther stood between the door and her daughter. "No more prayers," she said. "Not from me." The mark on her palm split open. Blood dripped, but it was black, not red. The floorboards hissed. Sophia looked up. "He's not coming through you, Mama. He's coming back for you." Esther turned and saw the figure, no longer veiled. Its face was hers, but older, hollowed, lips stitched shut by rosary beads. It raised its hand, and from Esther's mouth, a prayer began to pour. One she didn't know, one she couldn't stop, one that wasn't hers. Episode 13. The other version of her. The words spilling from Esther's mouth curled like smoke in the air, warping light, twisting sound. Each syllable summoned memories that weren't her temples buried in salt. Children born with tongues of fire, prayers that never reached heaven because they were never meant to. Sophia clung to the edge of the staircase, watching her mother chant in a voice too ancient to be human. "Mama," she whispered, but Esther didn't hear, or maybe she didn't, just couldn't respond anymore. The figure with Esther's face stepped closer, not walking, flowing, a dream built from mesh and broken vows. Its stitched lips smiled. From the hallway walls, the paint peeled in vertical lines, forming the shape of a doorway. It wasn't physical. It was a tear through time, through flesh, through prayer. And on the other side of that veil stood another Esther. This one was barefoot, eyes hollow, dressed in the same nightgown, but soaked in dried blood. She stared at Sophia with a grief so deep it echoed. Sophia stepped back. "That's not Mama." The veiled Esther opened her stitched mouth and the rosary beads burst. "You gave him permission," she said, "so he made more of you. One to pray, one to open, one to carry." Esther dropped to her knees, her own voice finally going silent. Tears streamed down her face. "I didn't know," she choked. "You asked," the other Esther replied, "and he is very good at answering." From the shadows, hands reached out, down scenes, grasping, inviting. Sophia stepped forward, her voice steady. "No, you don't get to take her. She's not yours." The other Esther blinked. "Then take my place." She opened her chest, revealing a cavity filled not with organs, but with burning scripture, living verses. They crawled. Sophia hesitated, and Esther, the real Esther, screamed, "One!" But it was too late. The verse leapt from the other's body, searing itself across Sophia's skin like light branded in ink. And from the back of the house, the sound of bells began to ring, but there was no church nearby, only something pretending to bless what it had already claimed. Episode 14. The bells that called no one. They rang 13 times. The bells had no source, no tower, no steeple, only sound deep and shivering, echoing through the bones of the house, like a funeral remembered too late. Esther tried to scream, but her throat had forgotten how. The prayer that had filled her mouth was gone, but the silence it left behind was worse. Sophia lay trembling on the floor, clutching her arms where the living verses still burned beneath her skin. The other Esther was gone, vanished into the doorway that now pulsed like an open wound in the hallway wall. But something else had stayed. From the darkness, the real shape of the demon emerged. Not veiled, not speaking, just present. It wasn't what Esther expected. No horns, no fire. It was a figure of light, but light that hurt to look at. Wrong light, too perfect, too clean, like a holy thing flayed of meaning. It stepped closer. Sophia crawled toward her mother, but the air thickened, slowed her. The house bent inward, like it was folding itself around the thing that now stood in its center. The demon looked at Esther with malice, but with pity. "Do you see now?" it said. His voice was her voice again. "You prayed for salvation, but you never asked from what." Esther forced herself to her feet. "You tricked me." "No." It blinked with eyes like mirrors. "I answered you, fully, freely, as he once did, before he stopped listening." Lightning flashed outside, but there was no storm. Sophia screamed. The verses on her arms began to move again, this time upward, toward her throat. Esther ran to her, but the demon raised one hand, and time slowed. Esther's breath caught mid-step, her tears frowned mid-fall. Only the demon moved now. It knelt beside Sophia and whispered something only she could hear. Then it stood and faced the crack in the wall, a doorway. It wasn't leaving, it was waiting. And as the bells tolled one final time, a voice sounded human, not divine, spoke from within Sophia. "Next time, Mama, ask who's listening before you pray." Episode 15. The Amen That Opened Hell. Sophia didn't sleep that night. She sat upright, eyes open, staring at the doorway in the wall that refused to close. It pulsed like a wound that never scabbed, a mouth that never stopped whispering. Esther stayed beside her, praying silently, no to God, but to memory, to the feeling of what being a mother used to mean. The demon didn't speak again. It didn't have to, because Sophia had begun to hum a slow, circular melody, the same one she sang before all of this began humming now. The notes curved downward into something older. Esther reached for her daughter's hand. It was ice cold. "Sophie," she whispered, "don't let him finish the prayer." But Sophia looked at her with eyes that had seen centuries. "It's not his prayer anymore," she said. "It's ours." Behind them, the walls cracked. The crucifix fell, melting before it hit the floor. From beneath the house, a sound rose in it, a growl, not a scream, a chorus of all the voices that had ever begged for something in the dark. And then, silence. Sophia stood, walked to the doorway. The script that once marked her arms now glowed beneath her skin. Not possession, inheritance. Esther sobbed, "Please don't go." Sophia turned. "I'm not going anywhere, Mama." She stepped into the light, and the doorway closed behind her like the final page of a sacred book. Esther collapsed. She waited. 1 minute, 10, an hour, dawn, and 10. A sound from the bedroom upstairs. Small, familiar, laughter. Esther ran. On the bed Saturday, Sophia, cold, smiling, drawing the sun again with a yellow crayon. "Mama," she said, "why are you crying?" Esther rushed to hold her, her body trembling. Outside, The sky was clear, no wind, no bells, only peace, but carved faintly into the window pane, almost as soft to see, was one word written backward, Amen, but beneath it, something else, a symbol, not from heaven, not from hell, something new, and it had begun with a mother's prayer.